The Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 1, just a few possessions into the second quarter, took the lead from the Lakers and never looked back. While LA eventually got the lead as low as 13 early in the fourth quarter, the hot shooting that got Minnesota the lead in the first place came back just in time to secure it. LA is the heavy favorite in this series, so much so that when I asked on Twitter if Minnesota was the underdog, only 29% of you said no outright. While I picked the Minnesota Timberwolves to be the dark horse of this year's playoffs, I also very much have drank the Lakers Kool-Aid this year, so I picked the Lakers to win this series in 6. But after stealing home court in Game 1, even if Minnesota's shooting does cool down a little bit, it can still be enough that they end up winning this series because of it. So how worried should the Los Angeles Lakers be? Where on the scale of it's just one game, they'll be fine, to oh shit, panic, 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 are the Lakers actually on? I have a million thoughts, so let's go ahead and get into it. Hello everybody, welcome to Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video, and check us out over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you'd like to enjoy this as an audio-only experience. I need to make a quick apology here because I am not going to cover these games in a way that I was hoping to. Knicks versus Pistons Game 1, that coverage will be coming out later tonight or early on Monday, paired along with the Warriors-Rockets game, unless something of the other 1-8, 2-7 matchups is interesting. This is due to me biting off way more than I could chew, as it turns out covering 4 NBA playoff games as extensively as I did in this video and in the Pacers coverage and the Nuggets versus Clippers coverage, well, there's just not enough time in the day. So I'm not ducking covering the Pistons-Knicks game just because I did pick the Pistons to win the series. One game doesn't necessarily change that, although I do have some takes. It's just going to be later. And then on top of that, for some of the 1-8, 2-7 matchups other than Rockets, Warriors, there's a decent chance I'm not going to do the recaps, or if I do, they're going to be super quick and paired with something else. It's just too much. 8 playoff games in 2 days. My brain is fried, dude. And I'm only on number 4. So apologies in that realm. Probably promised more than was realistic to deliver. That said, my own predictions for this series aside, there was a lot of interesting stuff in this game. It did the best thing that an NBA game can do for me, which is it made me question a lot of things. Like even my own personal basketball truths. So I put a lot into this script, a lot of effort. Like I said, it took way too damn long. So if you could drop a like, as I mentioned a second ago, I would appreciate it, especially if you end up enjoying this one. But with that said, let's get into the first quarter of this game. Both teams would go with their default starters, but many of them would have little to do with the story of this game. The first thing that surprised me was Julius Randle getting the LeBron matchup. The thought had crossed my mind just from a physical standpoint, but I figured they would want somebody with more of a defensive reputation on LeBron. Considering that, plus how little McDaniels ended up bothering Luka in the playoffs last year, I figured they'd just go that way. But this is actually similar to when Minnesota last year in round 1 put Karl Anthony Towns on Kevin Durant. That's an unconventional choice, but one that chose to focus on the physical matchup rather than the reputation of the individual defender. Cat on Kevin Durant made a lot of sense because regardless of how good he may be, Durant isn't exactly a threat to beat you off of the dribble, even if it's a awkward, kind of slow-footed, uncoordinated big man, sometimes at least defensively like Cat. One way or the other, Kevin Durant is primarily going to operate in the mid-range, and you're probably going to get a good enough contest with Cat anyways, so you might as well just let him do what he's going to do and save your more talented defensive players for other people on the floor. But they're willing to concede that for a couple of plays, knowing that Randle is the perfect physical matchup for a majority of them otherwise. At the age that he's at, LeBron relies on strength and finesse more so than athleticism, speed, vertical, etc. Whether it's powering through smaller players or just using his strength to bump off of bigger players in order to get separation for jumpers, strength is a foundational piece of how LeBron scores one one-on-one in 2025. It's always been, but he doesn't have as many superpowers as he used to, so strength is his most consistent and helpful one. On a handful of occasions, LeBron tried to power through Julius Randle to no avail. It helps that Randle clearly took this matchup personally. Like, effort plus size and strength is a large majority of the equation for defense, even if he's not the smartest defender. So if he's trying, Julius plays good defense. And I don't know how much LeBron is going to be able to do to get around this in this series. He is maybe the greatest of all time, so I still like the odds of him figuring it out, but this is going to be a tough one. Julius even had a few good possessions on Luka when he got that switch. McDaniels gets the Luka matchup once more, and I'll say he did a good job, all things considered, but then again, that's the exact thing that I said last year, because last year Luka kind of just did what he wanted. He was probably the only Laker who was comfortable out there. Honestly, not even probably. He definitely was the only Laker who felt comfortable all game. The first quarter illustrated this perfectly, as Luka scored 16 points while hitting 3 triples on a play like this where Luka gets Rudy Gobert on the switch, the one that he's licking his chops for, when he spins Rudy off of him and throws up a one-handed floater slash fadeaway. If you're McDaniels and you rotate over to contest like this, you've done what you can. The rest is up to fate. Another big issue for LA against Minnesota is how few mismatches they got, and especially how little they capitalized on the ones that they did get. Rui got Mike Conley on him on the baseline early in the game, and I thought it was a bad sign that he ended up taking a post fadeaway, seemingly because he was scared of the paint presence of the Timberwolves, but one way or the other, you need to put pressure, bring the extra defense, and be confident you can get the swing pass to get another open opportunity. Like, the mismatch isn't about you scoring, it's about getting the defense in rotation or you scoring, and in a case like this isn't punishing a mismatch. That's a small player, and you took a shot that the defense can live with. All of that said, early on, it was Minnesota that was struggling offensively. I mean, so was LA, but with 5 minutes left in the quarter, the Wolves were down 15-7. Julius Randle threw a handful of dumbass turnovers. They also just got little to no space on their shots early into the game, but McDaniels hit a corner catch and shoot 3 with a ton of confidence, which I said in my notes was a good sign for his performance to come for the rest of the game. That ended up being true, but even more true is what it rang for the rest of this team at large, because after this 3, it really started to click for this team. Basically, from here on, they were the better team. Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards both had bad offensive quarters, though Randle hitting his first 3 was at least an encouraging sign, but LeBron and Austin Reeves were much worse, scoring 0 points combined on 5 shot attempts between the two of them. The Lakers end the quarter up 28-21, but the energy is leaning towards Minnesota. Jaden McDaniels had himself a sizzling first half. His jumper, he hit over and over, whether it was from 3 or from mid-range, and even when he did miss, McDaniels would grab his own board and float it in. He is carrying early on in the second quarter. Overall, he finished this quarter with 14 points and 6 rebounds on 6 for 8 shooting from the field and 2 for 2 from outside. Actually, I believe that was the half, but whatever. But beyond McDaniels, this quarter was an offensive explosion regardless for Minnesota as a whole. They would score 38 points and hit 8 of their 15 three-point attempts. Naz Reid was easily the most on-fire player here in a sea of hot hands, hitting 4 of his 4 three-point attempts for 14 points in this quarter, and they were not low degree of difficulty threes by any means. This shot is from way outside, and Naz shot that with just an insane amount of comfort and nonchalantness. Now, as for how scoring was going for LA, well, Jackson Hayes missed his second dunk of the half and was immediately subbed out, same as the last time he did that, and LeBron hadn't got a bucket till about the 8-minute mark of this quarter, finally getting a mismatch that they actually take good advantage of while hitting a short fadeaway after bumping into Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler, why do I keep doing that? Every time I hear Walker, I think Kessler. No, Nickeil Alexander Walker. Things really felt crazy around the middle of the second after Reid hit his third 3 of that quarter. The dude is just absolutely sizzling. He is shooting these like he's shooting around at the park. But because of the ineptitude of Jackson Hayes, LA was running small all game, and they didn't exactly work really well when doing that against like Reed and especially Gobert and Reed lineups. But with the shooting being as insane as it was, it did feel to me like a cool down was likely to come, as it usually does for most teams. Shooting this well the whole game is kind of impossible. Like, how are you gonna do shit like this again? Like, literally, look at this. The only three Dante made this game. If you're the Lakers, you are rightfully telling yourself that shots like that are outside of your control, and you just do what you can, control what you can, and you can still mount a comeback. LA is only down 11 at this point. In fact, the 3-point make difference is only 3 right now, but it's enough for the lead to be what it is, so Minnesota takes the half up 59-48. So, you heard what I said about the shooting potentially chilling out? Well, it fucking didn't. Minnesota hit 7 threes in the third quarter. At this point, Jaden McDaniels is on another level. I think this has to be his best playoff performance ever, unless I'm just forgetting something obvious. Randall hits another 3, this time off of an offensive rebound, which makes it a 17-point lead for Minnesota. Ant then walks into a 3 in semi-transition and makes it a 22-point game. This was a 14-0 run from Minnesota to start. LeBron would break it with a corner 3, followed by Reeves doing the same, but they still had a whole lot more to dig themselves out of. The Timberwolves halfway through the third had hit the third most threes in a game in Wolves playoff history. Things start to turn back LA's way at the end of the quarter. Reeves is starting to heat up a ton. By the end of the third, he had scored 14 points. The Lakers would also go on a 10-2 run in the second half of the third as Vando steals it here and finds LeBron, who takes it coast to coast. It began to feel like the energy was shifting, especially after this, where Luka fucking banks in a half-court shot casually as hell. Certainly that's one way to end a quarter. LA ends the third down more than when they entered the quarter. However, they ended on a much stronger note than they could have. It looked like they might just go down super sad in the middle of the third. Minnesota leads 94-78. Luka starts quarter 4 with the top of the key 3, which cuts the lead to just 13. The Lakers begin to look alive, and Minnesota even begins to look mildly flustered. Randall got a technical foul after getting wrapped up with Vanderbilt, which he just kind of grew impatient of the arms being tangled, so he just ripped it away aggressively, and it ended up resulting in some free throws. The outside shooting slowed down a good bit, as the pace did in general. Randall and Ant hitting a pair of middies was all Minnesota had for a decent stretch of time. That particular Ant midi was sexy as hell, for the record. Just a work of art in basketball. After Naz Reid took a hard hit to the face against Vando, Rudy Gobert would check in for the first time in a while. He was not a part of Minnesota's dominant run at all, so I honestly thought that they might actually start to be cooked here, because their shooting is going to take a big hit with Naz on the bench. But the thing is, Ant and Randall didn't lose the hot hand. They still had the team's back when it mattered in the end. They only hit 3 3-pointers as a team in this quarter, but it was enough to let the Lakers never get closer than they did at the opening of the fourth quarter. By the end, Minnesota had set the franchise record for threes made in a playoff game, hitting 21, beating their record that they set last year, which was 18. And they would get the W in Los Angeles on their home floor, 117-95. Some quick notes for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I was definitely wrong about the shooting, at least within some degree or another. I don't want to go full reactionary here and just be like, well, they broke the franchise record for 3, so that automatically means that I was wrong about shooting possibly being a concern. However, I definitely oversold the potential shooting concerns in my series predictions. In large part, I'm emphasizing the bad things for a team just to kind of poke holes in them, but I made it seem like this team was like a bad 3-point shooting team, and that's just not the case. The playoff history with the players that I did mention my concerns with, numbers-wise, that did back my point. Like, Nickeil Alexander-Walker shot poorly in this game, and he did last year. Naz Reid shot like 34-35% in the playoffs last year, which I was mildly concerned about, but I definitely overvalued their pasts and kind of neglected what they have looked like since then and what they LA could look like now, especially Julius Randle, as he hasn't been in the playoffs for a minute, and he definitely closed super strong shooting wise this season, so I probably should have given him more benefit of the doubt. I probably should have given him more benefit of the doubt. Jesus Christ, it's 3 a.m., guys. I'm really trying here. Randle had 7 turnovers, many of them insane and stupid, but otherwise there's nothing negative to say, especially with him hitting his threes. He even scored one-on-one a few times. The mid-range attempts weren't all bad, and he played great defense on LeBron all game. Rudy Gobert played just 25 minutes, which was really the result of 2 things. First of all, Naz Reid was shooting as well as he did, which was the primary reason. But secondarily, Gobert just wasn't that effective defensively against LA's small ball, nor was he effective, at punishing mismatches on offense. He didn't even get that many rebounds either, only 1 offensive board in 25 minutes while mostly being matched up against Jared Vanderbilt and Rui. So he really wasn't giving them all that much good, even if he still had a positive plus minus. Reid's shooting gave Minnesota a massive offensive punch, and he's been much quicker on his feet, so you get the better offense and the defensive versatility with Reid. I think he's going to end up playing considerably more than Gobert by the time this series is over. Jaden McDaniels, what do I even say? Damn near a flawless performance. A good defense on Luka, 25 points, 9 rebounds, 11 for 13 shooting, 3 for 3 from outside. Just wow. There's no way he's done anything better than that, and there's also no way he's going to do anything better than that the rest of the series. More than likely not. But, anything is possible. Anthony Edwards' processing ability was damn near perfect, and that was another big area of concern I had with this team. He had a few bad shots, especially early in the first half, but once he realized how hot his teammates were, he deferred to them more often than not, getting 9 assists without a single turnover. Honestly, I was surprised by how few double teams he ended up seeing, which that was definitely just a consequence of the effective spacing. Like, you're less inclined to bring help off of Naz Reid than you would be Rudy Gobert, theoretically. Mike Conley only played about 20-ish minutes, and that's around where I expect him to stay. He's still got a lot of utility because he's a good 3-point shooter, good decision maker, never really makes any major mistakes. But Ant is the point guard of this team now. They're just not acknowledging it by labeling him at that position, but it's the truth. He's their lead creator. They're better off having a guard or wing with more size out there with him, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker or Dante DiVincenzo. So this is what I'm expecting to keep happening. Now, the question is, how sustainable is this for Minnesota? Honestly, I do think that the shooting can be this good. Now, I don't mean 21 threes a game this good, because that would be history defining, but not shocked by a game like this like I was in this one. As the game was going on more and more, it felt less like this was just a super hot shooting night, and rather that this team is just better at shooting than I originally said that they were. So they took me by surprise, but frankly, I probably could have done a little bit better to be less surprised by it. So the shooting could still be great. They could even still win the 3-point battle. I felt pretty confident LA would, but it's kind of up in the air right now. Depth also played a huge part in this win, and I knew Minnesota had that in their favor, but damn did it matter a lot here, because Minnesota's bench scored 43 while LA scored just 13, 5 of which were garbage time Dalton Connect buckets. Only 3 of the 43 from Minnesota was garbage time. What does this mean if Minnesota is shooting this good? What does that mean their ceiling is? Well, I think they would go all the way to the conference finals. It depends on what their second round matchup ends up being, but I would still pick the Thunder as of right now, having not seen how they played game 1 versus Memphis. But I think if their shooting's really good, they have little problems, especially if Ant's playmaking is this good as well. They're fucking good, dude. They're going to be a really good team, which means I will have been right about them being the dark horse. However, I will have been wrong about them losing to the Lakers. But with that, let's talk about some Lakers notes. LeBron and Austin just simply have to be better. There is no doubt about that. They each had one good quarter, LeBron in the second and Austin in the third. That's not going to cut it. Luka honestly did all that he could. His defense was also solid for the most part. There is very little you can pick apart from him. Definitely could do a better job defending the perimeter. It's not as though all of those threes were just complete happenstance. Some of them, they just made some poor rotations or decided that dudes were non-shooters when they very much proved prove to be. So maybe you don't play it quite as strict that time around. Maybe you don't feel as good about a Randall or a McDaniels 3. There were a lot of 3s in here from Minnesota that you do just got to live with, but there was definitely something they could do to help them here. Most of Ant and Reed's 3s were contested well enough. They did just hit them anyways, so you can 100% bank on some level of shooting regression, but don't make the mistake of thinking that's your only issue. Do not just feel comfortable if you're the Lakers and if you're a Lakers fan being like, well, they shot hot, so it's just that one game. They're definitely not firmly on the it's one game, they'll be fine side of the scale. They're not in panic mode either, but there's problems. One of which was LA got just 15 assists on 33 made shots, which is just 45%, while Minnesota had 65% of their field goals assisted. So the Lakers are getting less shots and working harder for them. Like, the offense came easy for Minnesota, and it was quite a lot of forcing from Luka to even make the Lakers offense look remotely good at all. I mean, he had fucking a third of their points. Minnesota was so great defensively in one-on-ones, and they forced them to play at their pace so that the Lakers were in more and more one-on-ones, many of which were not mismatches. LA shot the 3-ball fine. They had more issues with their efficiency inside the arc. There's not really, 36% is not great, but it's definitely serviceable for the volume. Size might end up being an insurmountable problem here. If Minnesota can play much bigger without necessarily having it come at the sacrifice of spacing, then that's probably a GG, frankly. Hopefully the shooting won't be so ridiculous that they don't want to play Rudy at all. You're going to need to get more out of Dorian, Rui, and Gabe Vincent offensively to make up for some of these depth deficiencies. Like, Rui needs to be honestly, maybe I would put Rui off of the bench and Dorian in the starting lineup just to get some more balance for offensive creation, because Rui can do a little bit beyond just being a catch and shoot guy, which is what Dorian is. I will say, Dorian threw a fucking sick pass to LeBron, I believe, in the second quarter. Didn't have a place for it in the game, but it was like a give and go back cut pass. Beautiful stuff. Dorian and Gabe combined, though, went 2 for 8 from the field and 2 for 6 from 3. So what does LA need to do to fix this? Well, first of all, give up on Jackson Hayes altogether. I think you're wasting everyone's time with that. It's very apparent that he is not ready for this. You gotta more effectively mismatch hunt. That's been their bread and butter, and you just gotta get LeBron and Luka off of these tall, strong guys and get them a couple of easy opportunities to either actually score or get the defense in rotation so you can get an actual clean look. Shit like Rui taking a post fade over Mike Conley can't be happening. You need to be doing better to take advantage of those opportunities. Honestly, I think you need more Luka LeBron pick and roll as well. That would be cool. Obviously, that does not force mismatch switches or anything, but for Luka, I think having someone more offensively capable than Vando or Rui as your screener would go a long way. It also wouldn't hurt. Just saying. I hate saying this. It feels like advocating for scamming, but could have leaned more into the foul grifting. 16 free throw attempts is not a lot for the Los Angeles Lakers, so get that LA boost to your whistle while you can, if you know what I'm saying. I still lean towards LA winning this series, even still, but oh man, I'm not that confident in it. And make no mistake, Minnesota getting one in LA just made winning this series a lot harder. LA is now forced to win one in Minnesota. Otherwise, it's all but certainly over. The Lakers are more talented up top. LeBron and Reeves should be better than they were in this game. I don't expect that to repeat itself at least too frequently. And JJ Redick is not the type of coach to just play it safe and not make strong adjustments when he very clearly should. So I do think this was a bold opening for Minnesota. This game brought a lot of questions for the Lakers to answer. And I guarantee you, JJ Redick is going to be in a dark, like in a broom closet with a laptop and a case of Adderall and fucking Celsius and probably snorting a line, whatever it takes. He's going to be up all night scheming, and he's going to throw something at Minnesota in game 2. Whether or not it will actually change things, we shall see. I'm pretty confident the Lakers are going to win game 2 pretty much regardless, but oof, wow, completely blindsided me on that one. I expected Minnesota to be competitive. I did not expect them to dominate out of the gate. So shout out to them. Sorry to Timberwolves fans for how facetious I was. But yeah, that is it. Goodbye. And shout out to Rudy for editing this one. That one too. All right, Rudy. This night turned into a fucking nightmare because I didn't have the password to your laptop to set up the teleprompter. So this video is probably going to be a much longer file. Try not to freak out about it because it's probably just going to be because I am pausing more to look down. I instead just prompted the laptop up, Yeah, this was a fucking disaster. Oh my God. What a terrible night. I fucking flopped this. God, sucks. Anyways, Lakers video.